Well, yay! Happy Mother's Day. So we are going to talk about how to deal with difficult people. And I was assigned this particular topic. So I can take this one of two ways here on Mother's Day. Either my husband is admiring me and just affirming my incredible ability to handle difficult people and difficult situations, or he wanted me to do a little more research on the topic and try to figure this one out, because maybe I am the difficult person. I don't know, but either way, you asked for it. So this morning, we are going to talk about how to deal with difficult people. And I am a mom, like many of you in this room, and I do have 4 kids, but I've got to be honest with you. The majority of the difficulty in people that I deal with is not with my 4 kiddos at home. I think that no matter where you are, what stage of life, in how many kids you don't have, your marriage relationship, no matter what circumstances you find yourself in, you're going to deal with difficult people, because life is so much about relationships, and relationships are very fluid. They're constantly changing. You get a job change. You have to engage with new and different and difficult people. Maybe you get a new boss. They bring someone in. Everything was going smooth, but then they bring someone into this environment that now is different. And it's changed, and it's difficult. Maybe you get a new position and you feel overwhelmed, or maybe you're in a different circumstance and things are challenging to you, and it makes work intense, so then it makes working with all these different people very difficult. Maybe you got a new roommate, or perhaps a new marriage, and that relationship dynamic is very difficult. Or maybe you're adding kids to the mix. I know something is in the water here at Center Church. We are having lots of babies. But honestly, adding kids into the mix causes our relationships, both in the home and outside of the home, to be evolving and changing, and that can be difficult. Maybe your kids are growing up and going out of the home, and that makes things different and difficult. All of the relational ebbs and flows are what cause so much sometimes relational conflict. And it also is what often causes both pleasure and pain in our life. Because the truth is, the quality of our life is often as good as the quality of our relationships. When relationships aren't going great, oftentimes life ain't going great. People problems are the worst kind of problems. Not that I have any experience in this topic. But relationship problems always lead to a lack of peace in our lives, because you know what? We're just all so different. And often, different equals difficult. Do you ever find yourself saying, why can't they just be like me? Why can't they just think like me? Why don't you get it? If you were like me, you would get it, and it would be okay, and everything would be all right. I know that's how it is in our home. Marcus and I, we have some real amazing similarities, and then we have some really incredible differences. Like the fact that Marcus has to sleep with a huge fan. So pretty much what that means for me is I'm sleeping in a wind tunnel every single night of my life. And this wind tunnel is not only just blowing air and causing my entire sleep to be disrupted, but I'm freezing. I'm freezing most of the time. And guess what? You know, they say that the mom sets the tone in the home. No, I'm not sure that that's true, because he has passed this on every single one of my kids. Fan in the room. Fan in the room. Like every night when I take it, Mom, don't forget, turn off the fan. Turn on the fan. Turn on the fan. Fan in the room. Like, what is this? Mayonnaise? This is another difference. Marcus loves mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is disgusting. Mayonnaise is this strange concoction of white, disgusting lard that you slather on your food, and it only makes you fat. So what is the point of mayonnaise? But guess what else? There's 4 children in our home, all of which love mayonnaise. And it's gross. Why can't you just be like me? Why do we have to be so different, cause such difficulties? Here at Center Church, we also believe that everybody is welcome, and everyone will mean different. When everyone is welcome, that's going to equal a lot of differences, and we're all uniquely designed by God, and sometimes being very different can mean very difficult. So I thought I'd break down some of the different kinds of people that we interact with in our lives so that you can kind of begin to identify what's going on in your life by breaking it down in some superheroes. Now, I seriously have never read a Marvel comic book until I just did some research for this talk, but I figured since we were going to be celebrating some of the Wonder Woman in the house today, we might as well talk about some superheroes. So, I'm going to break this down and describe some different people based on the different Marvel comic characters, and I'm also hoping that some of you guys will now pay attention. So, there's that. But how about that person in your life that you just you cannot quite figure them out? It's like you think you know them, and then no, and they're super guarded and standoffish, and you kind of want to know, but then you're like, who are you? I'm Batman. It's like, I thought we were kind of getting to know each other, and then now I'm like, what? I'm Batman. It's like, okay, well, I don't know if we can be friends or not be friends because you're Batman. Then there's the one that you think that you're getting closely connected with them and you want to share some serious things in your life, but it's just constant fun and games. It's just like, anyways, they don't want to talk about anything serious. They just want to joke and have fun, and that's great, except for when you're coming to tell them the deepest, darkest, most, painful situation, and they're just cracking a joke back and forth. It's like, seriously? Always the joker? Always the joker. Then there's that friend that is so unpredictable. Maybe it's your boss, maybe it's your coworker, and it's like sometimes you come in and you get kindness and gentleness and goodness, and then other times you come in and it's like the Wolverine. It's like, who is going to show up in my office today? Somebody's going to cut you. But yesterday, yeah, right? It's the Wolverine. Then there's the person that you seriously avoid at all costs when you run into them at Target because they are so stinking cold. They're like Iceman, and you're like, it's Iceman. I don't even want to go near because I'm going to feel bad about myself after walking away because they're so cold, so cold. Then there's Miss Do-It-All. She is Wonder Woman, and she can do everything you can do better. And she can have it all and be it all, and it's always perfect because she is Wonder Woman. And then it's very annoying. It's actually extremely annoying. Then there is Mr. Perfect or Mrs. Perfect. It's that one up you friend. It's like you're super excited to go and tell them that you got a new promotion, and they're like, oh yeah, well I got two new promotions. Or, it's Superman. It's totally Superman. Or you're like, hey, I'm so excited. My kid finally got a B on his test. Oh yeah, my kid got 3 A's. 3. Superman. Then there's that friend that does the angry outbursts. You might be at a restaurant. Things are going good. They ask for their salad with the dressing on the side, no cheese, no croutons. It comes to the table, loaded with cheese, loaded with croutons, and just drenched in dressing, and they literally, what's with the salad, man? Chick, take the salad back. I said no cheese. And you're like, whoa, Hulk, easy. It's so embarrassing. Angry outburst friend, the Hulk. And then there is Dr. Strange, and you know who you are. But everywhere, in every part of our life, we're going to deal with people. And we're different, and that's difficult. But our problem is never about what we think it's about. Our problem is not really with the behavior of the difficult person. It's not so much that the difficult behavior is indicating what it's really about, because the Bible clearly states that our war is not with flesh and blood. It's not against human to human. That's not where our war is. So we have to begin, if we're going to really deal with difficult people in the way that the Bible mandates us to, we have to look a little bit beneath the surface. We've got to peel it back just a little bit to discover what's really going on down there. Because I don't think any of us are ever just difficult to be difficult. If you've been the difficult person, was it really because you were just that mad about the salad? Or is there something more going on inside? And for the difficult person that's, blaming you and taking it out on you at work, could it possibly be that maybe there's some serious issues going on in their home? And it's really not about what it's about. And so we're going to look to God's word right now in 2 Timothy. And it says this, chapter 2, "Again I say, don't get involved in foolish, ignorant arguments that only starts fights. A servant of the Lord must not quarrel, but must be kind to everyone, be able to teach, and be patient with difficult people." So this is what God is telling us to do. He's asking us, be kind to everyone, the difficult person. Be patient. Be patient with difficult people. We often get so caught up in the symptoms, in the behavior, in the he said, or she said, or he did, or she did. And honestly, the root of all of our issues and all of our conflict in dealing with people is three things. This is really what's going on beneath the surface. It's sin, or it's shame, or it's selfishness. And so if you're the difficult person right now, because I've been there at times, what's really going on? Because it's likely either sin, it's shame, or it's selfishness. The good news is that we are being given clear instruction on how to handle this and how to deal with difficult people, even though the root is what the root is, that they're coming out against us and it's difficult. So what do we do? How do we handle it? Well, there's three things we can talk about right now. You can choose to curse it. You can perpetuate that cycle. You can just, whatever sin's creeping up in them, well, you can just sin right back and curse them, and you can go for it, and you can get angry, and you can get right down there in the ugly with them. And you can become a difficult person right alongside and just go there. You can curse it. You can choose to nurse it. Poor me. Poor me. I'm such a victim. Did you know how mean they were to me? Did you hear what they said to me? Did you hear what they did to me? I'm going to sit here and just nurse it in my own head. Then I'm going to go talk to every single coworker about it and every single friend. Poor me. Then I'm going to go have coffee with a person to pray about it and tell them about poor me. And we're living wounded. And when you live wounded like that, you are also becoming very susceptible to very childish behaviors like gossip and drama and being a victim. Or you can choose to reverse it. And you actually have the potential to change everything in this relationship and this circumstance. And that's what Joseph did. We're going to look to the Bible at a young man named Joseph. And it's in the very beginning in Genesis. But I found what was interesting was that Genesis, the very beginning of the Bible, it deals with difficult people at its onset. It's full of stories of hardship within relationship and bad blood. Did you know that the very first siblings, so the very first sibling relationship was two brothers, and there was such extreme jealousy between those two that one killed the other. Happy Mother's Day. And in Genesis 47, there's a story of another set of siblings. They were all boys. 11 boys, to be exact. I have one boy, and my house smells so bad from him alone that I cannot imagine 11 boys. But the youngest son was a boy named Joseph. And Joseph, this family that he was born into as the youngest had some spiritual heritage. So that's good. That's the good news. But there was a lot going on. It was a blended family. So that brought about its own dysfunction, but obviously with a blended family, there was lots of history and lots of past and lots of pain and lots of difficulty, none of which I'm sure any of us can relate to. It was just kind of a really difficult family, right? So he's born into that. But Joseph has dreams. It's kind of like his natural talent. He has these dreams, like God dreams. And he was just simply born with some leadership giftings. And honestly, by no earning of his own, he was just born with the favor of God on his life. He was also the baby of the family, which kind of led him to being dad's favorite. So, as a result, that obviously created a ton of jealousy and hatred from his other brothers. He's the youngest, he's gifted, he has God's favor on him, he can do this amazing gift of interpreting dreams, and so they really hated him. And one day, the brothers were all out in the field, and they were herding the sheep. They were like, yeah. And Joseph had had a dream, and he was so excited, and he wanted to go tell his brothers. And so he was just excited about what he had heard from God and wanted to go and share. And when he came running up, they were like, ugh, here he comes. Perfect little Joseph, daddy's favorite. Now he has the dreamer's here, the big dreamer. And so they created a plan to kill him. But then they thought about it, and they thought, well, that's not going to help us too much when it comes to the relationship with dad. So we won't kill him. We'll just throw him in a pit. We're going to get rid of him. And so they threw him in this pit. And then when there were some people passing by, headed to Egypt, they're like, let's sell him. Let's sell him to those people in Egypt. And so they sold him to these people that were then going to Egypt. And there he is. He was 17 years old at the time. He'd really done nothing wrong. He was just living his life according to the way that God wanted him to live his life. But these people around him did not like it. And so they became very difficult, so much so that they sell him. So now Joseph ends up in a palace in Egypt. Now that's not so bad. And the palace actually, he landed with this guy named Potiphar, who he was the captain of a guard. And the guard he was the guard for a king named Pharaoh. So it's really not that bad of a situation, except for the fact that Potiphar's wife liked this little 17-year-old boy and thought he was like a little cougar town going on, I guess. And so Potiphar's wife had a little something for Joseph, but Joseph wasn't wanting what Potiphar's wife was giving. And so as a result, because he stood true to God and stood true to what he knew who he was supposed to be, Potiphar's wife now becomes very difficult because she's not getting what she wants. People in your life not getting what they want, they can become very difficult. And so she had Joseph thrown in prison. She used her power to have him thrown in prison. So now, Joseph continues just to do what is right by God, and he goes from bad to bad to bad. So now he's in prison. But remember, he has great giftings and the favor of God in his life. So there's some guards in the prison that start having dreams. So guess what? Joseph gets to interpret their dreams. Now, my guess is that Joseph was probably pretty hopeful, like, oh, good, like, I do this for you. You guys are going to get me out of jail. But the truth is, they got what they wanted from Joseph. They moved on, and he was left there in prison for 2 more years. For 2 more years, Joseph, over this period of time, has just been living his life according to the way God wanted him to live it, in his giftings, with his leadership, and to no fault of his own, all these people around him aren't liking it. They're being really difficult, and he's surrounded by bitterness and ugliness and people coming after him. And I want you to know he stayed true to God. He completely stayed true to God. And I want you to understand that bitterness can come toward you. Difficulty can come at you. It can be all around you, but it does not have to get in you. It doesn't have to get in you. It didn't get in Joseph. But this is some of the things that Joseph chose to do, and I want to share them with you now. The first thing is, you have to realize you cannot please everyone. In John chapter 5, Jesus says this. He says, by myself, I can do nothing. I judge only as I hear, and my judgment is just, for I seek not to please myself, but him who sent me. Joseph was simply being the man that God had asked him to be. What we say around here is we listen to Jesus and we do what he says. And sometimes that means the people around us don't always like it. That means sometimes we're not pleasing everybody else, but we're pleasing God. Now, sometimes in my life, this might be a chick thing. So sorry, guys, don't tune me out completely. I'll get back to Marvel comic characters in a little bit. But there have been times in my life, and this you might relate to this, where I feel really compelled to go and connect with someone. Have you ever had that happen where you're like, I really want to get to know them, or I really want to reach out to them? And so I do. So I reach out and invite them to coffee. And so we go to coffee. I'm just listening to Jesus and doing what he says. And we're at coffee, and then somebody else, a little mutual friend, happens to be at the same coffee shop. And they look and they say, oh, wow. Why is she having coffee with her? I've never had coffee with her. I'm not having coffee with her. She's having coffee with her? that's who she's having coffee with? I've never been invited to coffee. Never once has she been invited to coffee. Well, look at this. Did you know that she is having coffee? Has she had coffee with you? She's never had coffee with me. She is so exclusive. She is so cliquey. She has never had coffee with me, and she's having coffee with her. And I got to tell you, I'm having coffee. I'm just having coffee, listening to Jesus and doing what he says, and it doesn't always please everyone. Joseph was just listening to Jesus and doing what he said. He wasn't trying to be special. He wasn't trying to be like, ooh, I got dreams, brothers. No. They were so mad at him because the truth is, it's not about the coffee. And I do like coffee. And I can have large amounts of coffee, but I cannot have coffee with everyone, right? And I don't know what it is for you. I don't know what God is telling you to do. You do. And you might go and do that, and it might not please a lot of people. But all that matters is that you please God. And you listen to him, and you do what he says. The second thing is refuse to play the game. In John chapter 2, verse 24, this is what it says. It says, Jesus didn't trust them because he knew all people. People are people. And I'm kind of an 80s, 90s girl. Does that song come to people are people, so why should it be? But people are people. And again, it's never about really what it's about. There's so much more going on underneath the surface. And so one thing that we can all do when we refuse to play the game is don't defend yourself. Don't go there. Don't try to be right or win. There's no need for that, because the reality in relationships is either you can be right or you can be in relationships. That's kind of the choice that's often laid before us. I think that this happens a lot in social media, and we get all up in that business, and it is the crazy maker. It is the absolutely cray maker. Social media is like the hook. There's all this stuff flooding your news feeds with opinions and thoughts and like bold statements that are like fact or alternative facts or whatever facts, right? There's just all this stuff. And it's like so tempting to get on there like, well, that's not true. Well, that's not right. Well, that's not what I think. Well, that's it. And send. And I want to ask you, has any good thing ever come from that? Never. Never. Nothing good comes from getting sucked in and playing the game. No good. So refuse to play the game when it comes to these difficult people and situations. The third thing is rise above it. In Isaiah chapter 40, 31, but those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not be faint. We cannot fly like an eagle if we're hanging with the turkeys. We just can't. We got to rise above it. There is so much in this life that you and I cannot control. There's so much going on. There's so many circumstances. There's so much difficulty and things that we have to wrestle with and grow through that are really out of our control. But we can control how we respond and rise above the difficulty and the nonsense. God said that earlier in 2 Timothy. Don't be foolish. Don't get all involved in that mess. Rise above it. Rise above it. Number 4, never retaliate. Don't repay evil for evil, 1 Peter says. Don't retaliate with insults when people insult you. Instead, pay them back with a blessing. That is what God has called you to do, and he will grant you his blessing. Okay, so when someone does ill to me and says bad things about me, and I'm supposed to pay back with bless you? Super counterintuitive, totally countercultural, and it is. It is. But it's kingdom thinking, and it's kingdom way, which is always better. And that's why Joseph was able to not let all the junk get in him, though it was around him, because he never retaliated. And 3.5 years ago, I went back to work. I hadn't worked in 10 years, and I started my own business, but it is a part of a larger organization and a corporate. And I'd never worked in the corporate world before. I'd always done ministry stuff, and so this was all new to me. So as a result of being it all new, I went in pretty wide-eyed and pretty open-minded and open-hearted, like, okay, just tell me what to do. I want to do well, so here I am. And so for the first year of my business, I had really no idea. I didn't have any idea what other people were doing in the company. I didn't care. I was just trying to figure this thing out, right? When you get a new job, when you take on, and it was my own business, so I felt super responsible. So what I didn't know is I was growing in my business quite quickly. And what I didn't know is some of the things that I had been able to achieve was taking other people longer to achieve. I didn't know any of that. I didn't care. I was just kind of in my zone doing my thing. And probably about 10 months in, I got a call. I have a business coach, and I got a call from my business coach. And normally when I got a call from my business coach, it was always rainbows and lollipops, woo, way to go, Jen, woo, oh, yay. So I'm oh, cool. I wonder what they want. So I pick up the phone. The voice was a little different on the other end this time. Jen, are you in a place that you can really talk? And I'm yeah, why? What's up? Kind of pit in my stomach. Remember, I'm new to this thing. It's 10 months in. I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. It's well, there's another health coach that has written a letter to corporate regarding you. And she's accusing you of helping others and building your business with incredible lack of integrity and violating quite a few policies and procedures that we had. Because I was new, I was did I? He's no, you did not. But you do need to know that this is what's being said about you. They've elevated it to corporate, so you're probably going to be getting some information from corporate on how we're going to best practice to handle this. And I was just does she know me? Well, she's claiming that she knows you. I'm no, does she really know me? Are we Facebook friends? Are we Facebook friends? I pull her up. We are not even Facebook friends. She doesn't know me. So long story short, of course, it all worked out, and I did not retaliate. I actually didn't say anything until I met her in person 3 months later. Now, I will be honest with you. When I saw her in person, sure enough, didn't even recognize the lady, had no idea how she would even have a clue who I was. We'd never, ever even met. But come to find out, she was in some pretty hard times, and she had been quite a mover and shaker in her own industry, in her own business, and things were not going well. So the very thought of what I was doing created some ick for her, and she decided to just retaliate and lash out. Really, again, it's not usually about what it's about. There was way more going on in the life of this person. But when I saw her, my flesh did want to respond. Lady, we're not even Facebook friends. Really? I wanted to self-protect. I wanted to do all the wrong things and get my own revenge. But Jesus never retaliated. And there were way worse things than a letter to corporate saying, bad integrity on that one. Up into his very death, Jesus over and over and over said, forgive them. I don't know what they do. It's not what it's about. It's not about coffee. It's not about a health coaching business. So please forgive them because they don't know what they do. And when I saw her, we were in a situation where we were kind of face to face. And I don't even know if she realized who I was until I went up and said, hey, I'm Jen Jones, and it's a pleasure to meet you. She did turn a little white in her face, but that's okay. That was good. And I occasionally see her over the last 4 years, and it's all good, and I'm so glad that I didn't retaliate because honestly, nothing became of it as a result. So the next thing that we have to do is release them. Matthew 5, verse 44, but I say, love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. This is a toughie, but it's just the reality of life There are some relationships you're just going to have to let go of. You just got to let go. Jesus says, if at all possible, do everything you can to live at peace. And sometimes that living at peace means releasing that person and just giving them to God. It's not on you. If you've been doing all this other stuff and you're listening to Jesus and doing what he says, then it's okay to let them go. Some people, many people, you cannot fix. You cannot fix it. So you can create that boundary to keep your heart right and your heart pure and let them go. And let God take care of what only God can take care of. So release them. Live in peace. And then number 6, live, and this is our last one, live redemptively. And I'm going to define what that means for us by going back to Joseph. So here Joseph is in prison for many years now. And the day came, remember, he was at the palace. He was in the prison of a palace of King Pharaoh. And so the day came when the king got word of Joseph's abilities. And guess what? The king had a dream. And the king wanted to know, whoa, what is this all about? And so, sure enough, he called for Joseph. Go get that young man that has the ability to interpret what is going on in my dreams. So Joseph did exactly that. And he already had incredible favor from God, and as a result of his leadership and his gifting from the Lord, he earned incredible favor in the eyes of the king. And the king made Joseph his number 2. So now he is not in a pit, he's not in prison, he is right at the side of the king. And he is a partner in ruling the kingdom. He goes on to have a wife and children, and he's living fully and he's living freely. And in that time, as he's ruling, Joseph's father back in Canaan passes away. And his brothers have now come to Egypt, where Joseph is ruling. And since the dad's gone, the old man has passed, the boys were certain that Joseph would seek revenge and that they would get what they deserved. But here's what it says. It says, but now that their father was dead, and this is in Genesis, Joseph's brothers became fearful. They said, now Joseph will show his anger and pay us back for all the wrong we did to him. But in Genesis 50, this is actually what Joseph replied. He said, don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? You intended to harm me, but God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. Here's the truth. God uses all of the difficult people and the difficult situations in our lives for good. What he did for Joseph is he used all of it to not only make Joseph an incredible man, but to serve an incredible purpose. And so the struggles, the challenges, the difficulties that you engage with people on a daily basis, they are for your good in a way that only God can do, because the answer to all of these problems and all of these people are God's plan, God's promise, and his presence. If you will live out these principles as you engage with difficult people, God is going to show up in your life in an incredible way, and his presence will give you the power to handle the difficult situation in a way that is pleasing to him, so that his plan for your life and the promise that he has for you to live a wonderful life will happen. It will all work out according to his good. Joseph recognized, so that pit, so that prison, so all of that was to get me here and to fulfill the purposes and the plan that God had for me? Yep. So, that hardship, that breakup, that difficulty, that mean boss, those terrible kids, that's all part of the path and part of the plan for God to fill me with his presence and empower me to live out the promise that he has for me? Yes. But we must live redemptively in the same way that Joseph did, and the way he engaged his brothers was in forgiveness. The way he engaged his brothers was by forgiving them. And I want you to know that you will never have to forgive more than God has already forgiven you. But the answer for many of you in this room right now, when it comes to your difficult people or your difficult situation, is not that it's going to all get solved, not that it's going to get answered, not that it's even going to be reconciled in the way that you want it to be. It's you forgiving. And it's you changing your posture from closed arms to wide open in the same capacity that Jesus did for you. If you want to walk in forgiveness, and when you walk in forgiveness, you will live in freedom. Forgive. Forgive. Walk in forgiveness, and you will live in freedom. So let's pray together. God, we're all sitting here, and the situations and the people or the person that has hurt us, that has made false accusations, that has misunderstood us, that has challenged us, it's pop into our head. And we want to trust you. We want to believe that it's for our good, that somehow, Lord, you're going to work this circumstance out for a purpose. And that there's a plan in all of this. And your word says that it is. But the step that we need to take right now is forgive. And so, as we are here with our eyes closed and our heads bowed before you, I just pray that, first of all, maybe we need to ask you for forgiveness. Maybe we're being the difficult person. And maybe it's because of the sin or the shame or the selfishness that's going on inside us, and we're lashing out and we're behaving in ways that we really don't want to, but we got so much going on beneath the surface, and we need you, God. And so if you're in this room and you just need God to forgive you and God to help you forgive yourself, you can make that choice right now where you sit. And you can just simply say, God, forgive me. Forgive me. I'm sorry. It's not what it's about. And maybe as you sit here, you're thinking of the one that you need to forgive. And so, God, I pray for the difficult relationships and people in our lives, and that we would begin to take the God step, the countercultural step, the kingdom-minded step, the God-like step, the Jesus step. It says, I forgive you. You don't know what you do. Arms wide open. I forgive you. You don't know what you're saying. I forgive you. You got a lot going on over there, so I forgive you. God, give us your presence so that we have the power to do that, so that we can walk in forgiveness and live in freedom. In Jesus' name, amen.